Thank you very much. It's lovely to be back in Riga. I first came here when, in the dark days when Parex had collapsed, and that was a very interesting time. I love this country. I'm not going to talk to you about people strategy. I think the other two speakers have done that very well. But I am going to talk to you about how to grow. My background is that I've worked with a lot of very, very big businesses as well as a lot of very small businesses. I started in the Volkswagen Group, planning growth and how to really almost double in size in a very short amount of time. And I find, big corporates are very interesting. For me personally, it wasn't a place that I wanted to be, so I then started working with lots of small companies as well. And since then, I've spent my time working. I spent all my time probably working with very big companies that want to be like small companies, and very small companies that want to be like big companies. And it's quite an interesting dilemma, right? So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about growth, I've named this talk "Elephants Can't Dance," and what I mean by that is that I think that the demands of business now, what the world needs from business, and the way that big businesses are constructed are fundamentally misaligned. I think big businesses are just unable to do things that small businesses can do today. And this is, for me, it's a really interesting topic. So I'm going to come on to this a bit later. But first of all, I think there's a really important question. I am a growth advisor. I help organizations think about growth and think about how to grow. But there's a fundamental question. Is that a good thing? Is growth good? Is it always good? And I think that potentially the answer is not always. So one of the most alarming pieces of work that I've had to do recently, does everyone know this bank? This is a very big bank. The Royal Bank of Scotland collapsed spectacularly, dragging most of the UK economy and quite a lot of the global economy down with it. And the reason, one of the fundamental reasons it was in so much trouble was because it was obsessive about growing. They wanted to grow everywhere. They wanted to be the biggest bank in the world, and they were the biggest bank in the world. But that was all they cared about, was growth. And I think there is a cost to growth, and maybe a problem that's caused by growth that we have to be very careful of. So I think we have to distinguish between good growth and bad growth. Okay, so that's point number one. And then I was thinking also about Latvia and what's happened in Latvia, which is an extraordinary series of circumstances. And one of the things I like to do is I like to look at how people describe a country or a business from outside. So I went back through The Economist magazine, and I just looked at The Economist 2007, 2008, 2009, just to see what was The Economist saying about Latvia, right? It's quite interesting. In 2007, slightly surprised. It says, in many ways a success story. Maybe not it's not unqualified praise. Then after the collapse, Latvia chose austerity over other measures, so it's chosen economic torture over complete collapse. This is like shocking. 2009, vultures are circling over Latvia. 2010, maybe Latvia's not going down the plug hole, right? So we're beginning to turn the corner here. 2011, one of Europe's wobbliest economies. 2012, okay, we've got to admit it now, astonishing economic recovery. So suddenly the rhetoric changes. But then comes 2013. Fastest growing economy, or second fastest growing, depending on how you count. But the poster child for austerity, do you know what this means? So the example for austerity, should everyone copy what Latvia does? Or is there a big cost? Is there a human cost to that turnaround, given what's happened recently? So this is last week. The cost in Latvia has been high. And I don't mean the economic cost, I mean the social cost and the human cost of growth. So it's a big and interesting question. I'll just put that one out there because I'm not sure that growth is always good. Okay, So, how to grow well. Is there a secret formula? Of course there is. Okay, so I'm going to flash it up in front of you. There it is. Okay? Just quickly take a photograph. Done. That was growth. Right. Okay. I go back to what I said at the beginning. I think that the formula for growth has changed quite radically. And that if you picked up any business book or you picked up a classic piece of marketing material like this one, which is the positioning book written by Trout and Al Rees, they would tell you pretty much the same things. And my advice to you, if you're starting a business, is please don't read this book, okay? Because I think it is no longer relevant. So most organizations think about themselves, particularly in terms of brand terms, in terms of position. They say, we need to understand within the marketplace that we're in, how are we positioned within that marketplace? So they define themselves by the marketplace that they're in. I'm a mobile phone company, how do I position myself against the other mobile phone companies? Or I'm a timber company, how do I position myself against the other timber companies? So they define themselves by the dynamics and the norms of that marketplace. That's number one. Secondly, they talk about differentiation a lot, right? How can I make myself different from all of those other companies? How can I grow more market share? How can I sell more things to more people? This is it's interesting. And how can I compete? And if you listen to the language of this, the language of positioning is very military. People talk about defining a position, establishing a position and defending it. They talk about mounting a marketing offensive. They talk about conquering share. Yeah? So we hear about language and we hear it's a military one. And the goal, the ultimate goal for this type of growth is absolute rigid consistency globally. And I think this is absolutely fine. If this was 1970, I think this is absolutely the right formula. It's not the right formula for now, but just because very few people can get it right. Okay, Volkswagen, my old company, is fantastic at doing this. Absolutely fantastic at creating cars that are consumable globally and differentiating themselves in price and quality from the competition, and establishing lots of market share. Very successful. Coca-Cola, extremely successful. Global brand. Same everywhere. Walk into any place in China where Coca-Cola's on sale, it's going to taste the same. Interesting question, though. Where's their growth coming from? I was speaking to someone from a soft drinks firm, I won't say which one, the other day, who told me they were worried because people are drinking too much water. McDonald's. Pretty much the same everywhere, right? So these are companies that are absolutely massive. These companies have really managed to grow extraordinarily well, but there are very few of them. And I'd say this game, this growth and this global game is devastatingly difficult to play, economically and socially, because there are lots and lots of failures. I don't know whether you know this one, Blockbuster Video. Blockbuster Video has gone bust, I think, for the third time in the last couple of weeks. And the model that they pursued just has been disrupted, taken over by technology. People don't hire DVDs and videos anymore. This is a bank, Washington Mutual, a bank that I know quite well, and I've unfortunately had to do a lot of work with banks. It's very difficult to differentiate a bank. Yeah, a bank is a bank is a bank. It basically does banking things for people, and you can differentiate through the service, etc. But there are very minor bits of differentiation as far as a bank is concerned. This one had a beautiful customer service ethos, and people felt very happy when they walked into the bank. Wasn't enough. Went bust. Polaroid. I love Polaroid. But I just really love Polaroid. But technology and progress just blew it away. And they were so good at making this that they forgot to look outside and see what was going on. Sega. I'm of the age where Sega was a really big company. They don't even make consoles anymore. I'm not going to talk about them. But they played the game and they lost. And then the one that I feel saddest about is this one, because Saab is a really interesting brand. Saab is a brand that I think isn't really a car brand, if I'm honest about it. So the economics of Saab never worked. Saab always was too small to play the kind of global game that you needed to be in the car business. In a good year, Saab would sell 120,000 cars. In a bad year, maybe 65,000. Lexus, 800,000. So Saab was always too small. But Saab had a fanatical following. When Saab was threatened, people came from all over the world to sit in a camp outside the factory in Trollhättan. And Saab, in a way, could have extended into all sorts of other businesses if they just stopped thinking of themselves as a car company. But because they thought of themselves as a car company, they had to build another factory or build another model and put lots and lots and lots of investment into something that didn't require it. So Saab, I think, interestingly, Saab, I think, as a brand is probably more powerful than the business. My suspicion is Saab will come again. So this game is very, very difficult, I think, and I think it is the wrong game. So now let's talk about what I think is possibly the right thing to do, and I'm going to offer up to you a different formula, a different way of growing first, and then something specifically that I think might apply for Latvian companies. But first of all, just let's take a look outside this model as to maybe what the better growth model might be. I spend a lot of time working now, I'll talk a bit about it later, either with new forms of technology, but also in the other half of my life I spend a lot of time working with food companies. And I think food is a very interesting place. I think food is the marketplace for food, the way people consume food, the way food is sold. All of this is changing. But food businesses haven't changed very much. So this is a supermarket. It could be any supermarket anywhere, and it looks like every supermarket everywhere. It has shelves, it has beans and tomatoes and all, and this is the model for a supermarket that pretty much is I think you could find in any country anywhere. And the supermarkets, to be honest with you, are very, very similar. There are very little differences between the supermarkets. If you walk into a supermarket, I could take the labeling away, it would feel the same. And supermarkets globally are losing share to other businesses. This is really interesting. So there are other brands coming into the food world that don't behave like this. And meantime, most of the supermarkets I talk to are obsessed by each other, so they spend their time looking at other supermarkets and what other supermarkets are doing and copying the thing that the other supermarket has done. Meantime, there's a whole group of other competitors that they can't see. So this one I love. This is HelloFresh. This is a menu delivery system where they understand that people don't really understand how to cook, and they don't understand what they want to eat until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So this company thinks about what all of those meals should be and delivers them in a pre-cut form to busy people who can't cook. And they're growing really fast. It's a really, really interesting thing to do. It's really expensive as well. This is Jamie Oliver. He's a very famous chef in the UK. And he has a direct selling business. He has a franchised cookware business. He sells pots and pans. He sells books. He sells TV shows. His revenue from non-cooking, non-chef work last year was £200 million. He's selling a lot of food. Supermarkets don't see it. And now this one. Amazon, who don't tend to go into markets lightly, have decided that they also are going to go into grocery and food delivery. And this, I think, is fascinating, because Amazon can therefore deliver things to you in a way that's super convenient and in a way which maybe is really threatening to the existing supermarket model. So if I was running a supermarket, which luckily I'm not, I would be very worried about this. I am advising people who do run supermarkets, and they are worried about it, luckily. So, here's maybe the the new theory, right? First of all, I think that people, customers, no longer have time in their lives to have deep relationships with very many other brands. So I think there's a lot of evidence to say that the number of brands that people engage with is fewer, maybe 4 or 5 deeply, but they are willing to give those brands much more business. So the theory is less market share, more share of wallet. Yeah? So get involved deeper in people's lives, meet more needs, and then you will earn more money from those people. Yeah? So deep relationships. And that means that if you're Amazon, there is no category and no market that you can't get into. Yeah? Amazon, I honestly, if Amazon started selling holidays, they may do. Tomorrow, I would shop from Amazon. Amazon is a really useful company. Yeah? It makes my life easier. Google, I think, is one of these. Google, we'll see. Google can get into pretty much any category and be useful. Forget about being different. Just be useful. Earn more money from people, occasionally collaborate, I'll talk about that in a minute, and think about your company not from the point of view of what you make. I think this is the wrong way to think about it. Start about what is the point of view of the people that you are serving, the customers, their lives that they're in, whether they're business customers or consumers. What are the things that they have going on in their lives that you could then meet the needs, the extra needs that you can meet? Let me show you a few examples. So Amazon, obviously Amazon can get into any business. Do you know Virgin? Virgin is a very big small company. Virgin is David versus Goliath, but is the size of Goliath. Virgin run trains in the UK, airlines, music businesses, and now hospitals. So Virgin have a business called Virgin Care, where they are running hospitals in the UK. I think there is no market that this brand could not get into. It's fascinating. This project, one of my favorite projects, Google Fiber. Do you know Google Fiber? You must know Google Fiber. Google Fiber is very high-speed, ultra-high-speed broadband delivered to specific cities in the US. So Kansas City, Austin, I think. And what's interesting about Google Fiber is that that means that Google becomes physical. So suddenly Google has a shop that you can go into. There is a Google person that comes to your home and wires up the broadband, and that's great. So I think, and again, I suspect there are very few businesses that Google couldn't get into. Is there anyone from PwC in the room? No, all busy counting. PwC is a really interesting organisation, one that I've worked with for a while, and I don't know what PwC is. I really don't. I don't know whether it's an auditor or an accountant or a consulting firm, and I don't think PwC knows what PwC is either. And I don't think any of PwC's customers know what PwC is. And I don't think any of PwC's employees know what PwC is. Because PwC is as many things as you want it to be. Last year, I think, was the first time that more money that they earned, and they earned a lot of money, came from non-accounting activities. So PwC is involved in building the football stadiums in Brazil currently. PwC is involved in building the healthcare infrastructure in East Africa. PwC was involved in creating the dam project in Bhutan. PwC has an entrepreneurs accelerator school in London. PwC has a platform for SMEs that no one's ever heard of because they market it really badly. But it's, sorry. So my version is PwC is not an accounting firm. And the way that PwC grows is exactly what I'm talking about. PwC sells more and more services to its existing customers. Yeah? So PwC looks at the top 100, top 130 customers they have globally, and they say, how can we increase our revenues with those customers, not by 10%, but by 1,000%? Right? How can we increase the level of spend that those customers have by a factor of 10? And that's how they grow. And I think that's really interesting because it works. Caterpillar seem to make everything, right? So they make big earth-moving equipment, and they make really funky boots and coats and all sorts of things. But they do it through a licensing arrangement. Caterpillar don't actually make the boots. But they collaborate with someone who is a very good boot manufacturer. I think this is really interesting. So if you have capability to build something, build a boot, piece of clothing, you can enter into an arrangement with a really big global brand that allows you to reach markets really fast. So this is a relatively small supplier, I think, that makes these boots for Caterpillar. So I think brand collaborations are seriously interesting when it comes to growth. Really interesting. There's an old one that we worked on here. There's Amex. So American Express in some countries is not very cool. And Red, there was a big AIDS charity created by Bono and a few other people called Red. So if you create this card, an Amex Red card, it was a specific product, it got Amex 1 million customers that they would not normally have had because it was cool. Yeah, so creating a product specifically in collaboration with another brand can also lead to growth. And then the last point of all, and I think this is really, this is a real advantage for Latvian companies. The world is really fed up with global, hates big globality, really wants things that are authentic and local. This is a really interesting brand, an apothecary brand, creams and cosmetics called Aesop, which is an Australian brand, and each of their shops, every single one of their shops is designed completely differently for the location that they're in. So this is one in, I think, Thailand, and this is one in Japan. And the only thing that's the same are the bottles, but each of the shops are different, and the things that the shop does in terms of services are different. The relationship it has with the local community is different. It's localized. It's a global brand that's localized. I think Latvian companies, I had a quick look, I think there are some Latvian companies that do that very well. So I saw this one, this is Madara. It seems to tell a story about cosmetics in a way which is really authentic and for me works well. This one is tiny, but I love it. Little rye bread brand called Story, do you know it? This is on sale in Dean and DeLuca in New York. This is a great Latvian story, I think. It's fantastic. Stenders, we talked to someone, Stenders, I've never been to a Stenders, but I think I quite like Stenders, right? So Stenders seems to be in lots of different places. I hope it's true. Is it true? Is Stenders good? Yeah? It looks cool, right? and it seems to be localized. I like it a lot. So I think that this kind of local and authentic is a really good place to start. But okay, so that's point number one. You don't have to be big in going after market share. That's point number one. Now, let's have a little look at this. Okay, Tata created, do you know Tata, the Indian conglomerate? This is a water filter, which they sold for an incredibly low price of 999 rupees, just less than 1 crore, they call it. And Tata created this water filter at a price that no one could possibly have thought they could do it. So they made a water filter that was incredibly cheap, and they did it by using. They saw a need. They saw a need for purified water, and they went out and they found a way to fill that need. And this was amazingly successful. So saying back to my point, if you can find a need that's unsatisfied, then you can fulfill it. When PwC are doing surveys, this is one of theirs, they ask CEOs of all sorts of companies where they think the growth is coming from, and this was the answer this year. So where do you think your growth is coming from? And most people said it's the domestic market first, then it'll be in new products, then it'll be a bit in foreign markets, and then maybe a JV, yeah, a joint venture. So this was the thought process. And then they said, where are you going to invest money? If you're looking to grow, where are you going to invest money? And this was the answer. A lot of investment in existing customer relationships and in making the operation more efficient, and in the servicing of that. So existing business, making the existing business more efficient. And if you look to the right-hand side, most people are looking to innovate and create new products. So new products sold to existing customers. Not the same product to new customers, but new products to existing customers. There's one big jarring difference here, which is CEE. CEE, investing in capacity. So this is my understanding, Central Eastern Europe, yeah? So there's a game that's going on that other people are playing, which is about investing in customer relationships and delivering new things for the customer relationships. And I worry a little bit that CEE isn't playing an old game, which is investing in capacity and selling more of the same things to more people. So just to watch out, I think, here in terms of capacity. But these companies that PwC ask are big companies. I think they're 1,300 reasonably big companies. And I come back to the first point. These companies would love to find a way to grow, would absolutely love to find a good way to grow, but they can't because they're elephants. Right? Big companies can't dance. I know they think they can, but they can't. I worry about Google becoming a bit of an elephant, to be honest with you, but these companies look for very, very small incremental forms of growth, and they seek to do it in lots of new and inventive ways, but they can't move as fast as a small company. This is why frankly, this is why I left all the big companies that I work for, because I much prefer to go faster in a small company than very slow in a big company. Here are some small companies. This is one I love called Bicot. Do you know Bicot? So Bicot is an intermediary that understands what you like to invest in, the things that you like personally. So for example, in food, this might mean that I don't like anything that's genetically modified. I'm a vegan, or maybe I have a specific diet. So you plug all of those preferences into Bicot, and it tells you the products that you should be buying. And it has a social dimension to it as well. So it will work out where those best products are. In Germany, there's a version of this called Barku, which is really good, right? Do you know Barku? And Barku now will have peer recommendations on what to buy, food to buy. And Barku, there's no need to go to a supermarket anymore. I have a Barku profile, I put in what I want, Barku orders all my food and brings it to me. I don't have to go into one of those horrid supermarkets. This one I like. Is this big? Is this growing, Mamu? Or is this? I saw this. I thought this is great. This is kind of social, doing things in a socially integrated way. Really interesting. Really interesting. In California, in San Francisco, there is a food business called Good Eggs, which is what this one is. And Good Eggs has relationships with all of the local producers. And if you sign up to Good Eggs, you say what you want, but bread, meat, whatever it might be, and they go get it for you from the producers. So there's no stock. This is a model that doesn't require a supermarket. Yeah, so this is really interesting. This is use of technology and cleverness in order to create a new brand. Now, Tesla is disrupting the car market. Tesla is doing something that everyone says is impossible. Tesla is creating an infrastructure, a charging infrastructure for electric cars that goes all the way down the west coast of America, all the way down the east coast of America, and all the way across Europe. Everyone said this can't be done. There's no way that electric cars can go very fast, or far. His go quite fast. So he creates a supercharging platform that is free. So all of these cars are free to charge. Now, the thing about Tesla that's different from any company that I work with, and I guess anyone here, is that Tesla is founded and run by a crazy billionaire, okay? So does it mean that you have to have a billionaire at the head of your company in order to do this? I don't think so. I work on a car project as well, which is hydrogen cars. So we are creating to bring the world's first hydrogen-powered car to market currently. And this is a very small company. And we're doing the same thing. We're going to build the hydrogen and own the hydrogen ourselves. And the reason we can do that is because we're not Volkswagen. We're not GM. We can do things that they can't think about. And this is really interesting because we can pioneer, we can create new business models in a way that the big companies can't, because the big companies can't dance. So this is not in competition with the big companies. We're just doing something that they simply can't do because their models don't work. But as you saw before, they're all trying to do something new. They want to innovate. So if I was starting a small business now and I was thinking about collaboration, I would think about what I could do that a big company couldn't and how I can do that better than the big company. This, by the way, this is the prototype of our hydrogen car. This is a very lightweight hydrogen vehicle. It won't look like this when it's out. We are producing this car in a way which is a different kind of business model, and we're producing it open source. So all of the technology in the car is available, freely available to anyone on the internet who wants to copy, because we want it to be copied. Yeah, so this is, again, I was at VW for 10 years. If I said that in VW, I would have been fired straight away, rather than the 10 years it took to get fired. So, what's my message? My message is this, is that please think about your company in a way which is about building deeper relationships with customers and meeting more needs. So what's the role I can play in my customers' lives, not what's the position I take in the market. How do I earn more money from my customers, not how do I find more customers. Share of wallet, not market share, is a very, very important concept. And please think locally, not globally. Global is the preserve of the very few, and it's economically very difficult. But above all, be useful. Think about the social aspects, what you can do. This is what every company wants to do now, and be pioneers. That, I think, is the formula for growth for a small company today.
Thank you, Nick, for fascinating. Fascinating talk. Thank you very much. Jautājumi, questions. Nick is going to be available at one of our working groups as well, and jums toreiz arī kafijas pauzē un jāparunāties. Where does the money come from for, if it's an open source hydrogen car, what's the business model? Where's the money? How is it possible to finance that?
Without making it massively complicated, the existing car model is quite broken in that we make a car. So at VW, you make a car, you sell it for quite a large amount of money, and then after 2-3 years, you never ever earn any more money out of it. So if you look at the business model for existing car companies, earn a lot of money in the first year, second year, and then almost nothing throughout the rest of the car's life. Most cars now are pretty good, and they last for 10, 12, 14, 15 years. If you can get a revenue stream for the entire lifetime of the car, then you can mitigate all of the costs through it. So we earn a small amount of money over 15 years rather than a large amount of money in 1 year.
All right. Jautājumi, yes, Andris, lūdzu.
I know you are, Nick, an expert also in brands and branding as such in general, so I would like to ask you a slightly provocative question. Citadele, for instance, is your baby, and this is the reason why you went here. I would like you to be associated not with Parex but with Citadele. So,
thank you.
As delivering positive message. But what do you think about city branding? Does Live Riga or Riga has a chance, or what do you think about country branding as such, if you might elaborate a little bit? So, or even regions like Baltic Sea region, or do we have any chances, and what should we do?
So I promised that I am going to talk about this a bit in detail this afternoon. But very quickly, just to answer your question, I think it is impossible and foolish to try to brand a city. Because you will create, it is a marketing construct. The way that people, the reason people will come to Latvia for tourism, or the reason why people want to come to invest in Latvia, is because of what Latvia does not because of the marketing campaign. This is not fashionable in brand world, by the way, so not everyone agrees with me. But I think that if you want to sell products, you have to think along the lines that I've been thinking about here, and then maybe those products actually could go quite a long way to defining how the world thinks about Latvia rather than the other way around, right? So I will talk this afternoon about Mongolia and the way that we have constructed an export sector in Mongolia, which deals with some of those issues. But basically, please don't try and market places. It's branding in the worst sense of the word.
Okay, vēl kāds jautājums? Nē? Tad es uzdošu. Okay, I'll ask a question on behalf of the audience, I suppose. I think you gave such a large amount of food for thought for them that they're...
Sorry.
You spoke about the local and the authentic as perhaps being the competitive advantage, the direction in which we should think about developing our businesses here. But nevertheless, you at the same time have to be export-oriented while being local and authentic.
So I mean local in mindset, not local.
Yeah. I wanted to elaborate on that because there seems to be a contradiction in that somewhat. Isn't there? Being local and authentic, and at the same time export-oriented.
I think people are. I think consumers especially are interested in authenticity. So they're interested in the origin of where things come from. And that's what I mean by being local, in one sense. So having a very strong sense of identity from where that thing came from. So, and I think that is different from export. I think being an international brand with a Latvian flavour is not the same as exporting Latvian products. Yeah, so there's a difference. The second thing is I think that rigid consistency is not the right thing to do. So the McDonald's Coca-Cola model, right? So my understanding is that Stenders, say for example Stenders is in several different countries. If the model and the shop feels different in several different countries, is adapted to the local marketplace, that's a really good strategy. So the question is how does Stenders manifest itself in Germany, and how do you tailor Stenders to Germany or to Cologne even? It becomes the question that I would be thinking about if I was trying to export. But what I don't want to do is say, how can I take my product as I have it here today and sell it in exactly this form everywhere? Because I think that's the wrong game.
All right. Andris, you're abusing your position. Yeah.
Just to avoid slight misunderstanding, because I think I understood what you said about this city branding and country branding, and you will be speaking about Mongolia. But you know, for instance, I know cities devote a lot of efforts to become popular. Don't call it branding, but for instance, cities pay even that Woody Allen makes film about Rome or Paris or Barcelona, and then Freddie Mercury is making was making, and city benefits from it. And I really think that Live Riga is a rather successful concept, which in a way does work and attracts more tourists to Latvia.
Don't get me wrong. I think that making a campaign for tourism is great, or making a campaign for inward investment is great. I think the idea that you can brand an entire country and put every need into that brand is problematic.
Thank you.
So Live Riga, is it Live Riga? Yeah, Live Riga may not work for inward investment. It might great for tourism, maybe not for inward investment. Yeah, so
clear.
We'll talk about it more this afternoon.
Okay, paldies.